Good afternoon, folks, and thanks for joining us. Welcome to the MMA Sucka Podcast. My name is Tim Ween, joined as always by the editor at MMA Sucka, Frazer Krohn. Frazer, what's going on? What's new and exciting?
We'll address the elephant in the room. The eye, I had a detached retina, hence keeping me out of last week's podcast where I wasn't able to break down some of the biggest fights of the year. But, it is what it is. We'll have to kind of suck that up and get on with it. But I can't say that I envy Michael Bisping at all, who obviously suffered it. Luckily, I wasn't kicked in the head by Vitor Belfort. I don't know how I got mine, but I had surgery, 2-hour surgery, looking at about 2 to 4 week recovery. But luckily, I'm off work, so I can be all over MMA Sucka, posting the latest news and whatnot. So be sure to check that out on MMA Sucka because there's plenty of content going up on there in the next few weeks.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed. Man, you've been busy. You've been publishing like 2 or 3 pieces a day now. Yeah, it's great to see.
Yeah, I've got nothing better to do, unfortunately. But it's it is what it is, and we just get on with it. Luckily.
So let's talk about Pedro Munoz and Sean O'Malley then. Like, how was this a real thing? How severe was the eye poke? Because you have experience. You've been eye gouged by somebody.
Exactly. I'm lucky enough that mine didn't hurt. It didn't affect my, it wasn't painful at all. It was just like I had like a curtain over. It looked like I had a curtain over half of my eye. Mm-hmm. But it's the recovery that's taking the time and the painful bit, because obviously you're having, I got put to sleep and I'm having surgery. I had surgery on my eye, and then obviously it's sore after that. But I don't think these eye injuries are anything to joke about. Like Sean O'Malley saying, you robbed me of 50 G. Well, in my opinion, you were losing the fight anyway. Yeah, so don't from a fight analysis perspective, you were losing the fight anyway. From a human perspective, I don't envy Pedro Munoz this week, because it's, speaking from experience, the recovery isn't pleasant. You can't see, your eyes susceptible to the light, so you're not allowed. But I can't really go out an awful lot. It's a long old road, but watching the podcast last week, and you were talking about, reforming the sort of rules and regulations around eye poking. Yep. Irrespective of what happened to me, that still needs to be done. We're losing far too many fights due to eye poke. Pedro Munoz versus Sean O'Malley, I don't really have a great lust to see it again, but realistically, we should see it again, because it was a no contest. The fight hadn't finished. O'Malley was struggling with the sort of in and out movement of Munoz, and going back to as far as Bilal Muhammad, Leon Edwards, one of the worst eye pokes we've seen, was almost like this sort of claw in the eye of Bilal Muhammad. Of course, these aren't done on purpose, but with that being said, they're still happening. If you had the slightly curved gloves, you can still grapple, you can still obviously make the fist, but it reduces the factor, at least, of straight eye pokes. John Jones is returning hopefully this year. We're screwed. We've got no chance. We've got no chance.
What a segue that was.
We've got no chance. But even in the Rafael versus Raphael fight from this weekend, we saw an eye poke there. Luckily, it wasn't too bad. It looked quite bad on the replay, the sort of thumb to the eye, but luckily it wasn't so bad, and Dos Anjos was able to continue after sort of 30 seconds. But it's got to be addressed, like you say.
Man, and it's been happening for. It's not even the history of the sport, because Pancrase did no gloves at all, and there wasn't a huge amount of eye pokes, but styles change over time. There's a lot more framing than there was back then and stuff like that. So people are reaching a lot more, people are countering a lot more, doing different things and different looks. So it's leading to more eye pokes because people change their styles over time. Changing the gloves is great. And the UFC said they wanted to do it. I think after UFC like 114 or something like that, when there was like 3 fights canceled due to eye pokes. This was 10 years ago. And the UFC said, we are working on a glove change. And instead they've done nothing. Like, they have known about the issue and have still done nothing about this. A glove change is the minimum of what needs to be done.
Off the top of my head, is it Trevor Whitman or
Whitman?
Who has the gloves, but they're not willing to pay the guy for the gloves, or as underground as it sounds, sort of just steal and adapt his idea. Bellator did it. They fight in an octagon.
Yeah,
They steal ideas from, they've got the almost pride style tournaments where you've got the tournament for the belt, which is kicking off the Bellator, and it's really, really good. People want to see that format come to the UFC. They've got the octagon, as it were, of that was made famous by the UFC. I know every other promotion, but we're just using Bellator as an example.
Yes.
And now you've got the crossover start. Last week or the week before, Valerie Loureda announced that she's going to WWE.
Yeah,
that's a crossover star. Will she come back to MMA? We're not quite sure, but at the end of the day, that's a crossover star. Why Bellator? If Bellator even, Bellator have got their own problems as far as having fights cancelled with regards to, if you remember, with it, Kiritanov and Matt Mitrione ran across the octagon, kicked him in the balls, and that was over then within the first 2 seconds, maybe the shortest fight of MMA history.
Man, that sucked.
There's nothing you can do about that. I mean, sharpen up your technique. But if Bellator introduced slightly curved gloves, then more people, that would smash the headlines. More people would be, aware of Bellator for the good that they're doing, and they'd be the trailblazers in that area. And yet, they don't seem to be too interested in it, and obviously neither of the UFC at the moment. And it's frustrating for us because I wanted to see the conclusion of, let's say Pedro Munoz continued on how he was and he won the first 2 rounds, clearly. Now do we see O'Malley, rather than being the defensive fighter, be the offensive fighter because he has to get the knockout in the final round? Or, how does that fight play out? We don't know. And that's something that I feel that was sort of almost stolen away from us because of a fairly, on paper, a fairly simple problem to overcome, but people just aren't willing to do it.
Well, and like you said, like you have offered solutions to this problem, and unlike other things like PEDs or like some other cheating stuff that goes on in the sport, or like overweight cutting, like the sport has issues that are very hard to quantify and hard to solve. Eye poking is an issue that is very easy to quantify, and we've offered multiple solutions to like gloves, first of all. And if you do another eye poke, like take a point away, even if it's inadvertent. You need to like set an example, because screwing with someone's eye, like Michael Bisping will never. That was a kick though. That was
I guess.
But eyes, like once it's damaged, like it's hard to get back. Am I wrong?
Yeah, exactly. And this is a question.
This is so funny. We're talking about like eye poking. You're back on the show.
Exactly. Well, like I said, we have to address the elephant in the room. Otherwise, the audio listeners won't know what we're talking about. I have a sort of protective eye shield over my eye for the audio listeners, but the guys catching on YouTube will know exactly what we're talking about. I didn't think that guys on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, when they listen to us, won't know what we're saying. But no, so yeah. But you say Michael Bisping wasn't an eye poke, but that was Vitor Belfort taking in TRT Vitor time, so that was PEDs. So it's still kind of a rule break there. Obviously, the head kick's legal, fully legal, but it was TRT Vitor. But like you say, it's not like there's not really a solution to boring fights. The fighter fights how they want to fight. That's not. There's issues surrounding boring fights, and I'm sure last week we would have got into the Israel Adesanya, Jared Cannonier. I put an article out this week about the fact that Israel Adesanya has the second lowest, only behind Carla Esparza, finish rate of all UFC champions.
I'll put it
someone that's supposed to be, for someone that's meant to be this breathtaking striker, walking out as the Undertaker with the urn, and then cruises to a fairly boring victory. For someone who bigs himself up to say, this is going to be like Anderson Silva, Forrest Griffin, and then cruises over 25 minutes. Yeah. For someone like Alexander Volkanovski, he goes in, I'm going to knock my opponent out. But who doesn't go into a UFC fight saying they're going to do that? Mm-hmm. But he's, I think you got a caveat Volkanovski, who has the same finish rate as Adesanya, with the fact that he fought Max Holloway 3 times.
Yeah.
Max Holloway notoriously has one of the most solid chins in MMA. So, you can almost sort of put an asterisk next to Volkanovski's name. But yeah, going back to the eye pokes, there's not really a solution for boring fights, but there are plenty of solutions for eye pokes. There's plenty of solutions for weight cutting. You botch your weight cut by, more than 3 pounds. You enter the first round only being able to score 9 points. It might finish a 9, or it might finish a 9-9 or a 10-point must system, but you essentially enter the fight a point down because you've got that advantage going into the fight that you're potentially far bigger. I saw, I'm not sure how true it is, but I saw that Pereira entered the fight last weekend with Strickland, so 207 pounds, something like that. That means he's put on 22 pounds. If he misses weight,
he's always been big.
Exactly. But let's say that he missed weight. He came in at 187, 188. Yes, he loses 20% of his purse. But he is then probably, you're looking at 210, 215 entering the fight. That's a huge advantage for a striker as well, where he could put all that power behind his shots. I mean, he didn't need to have missed weight to put power behind that left hook. And obviously, your article that came out, was it last Tuesday?
Yeah,
top five knock. Yeah, phenomenal. Like, it really, link that below as well, because that was a really good piece. I've managed to link it into a lot of my articles because it definitely needs to be read.
Thanks, man.
But, there are solutions to the eye poke situation, and we're not addressing it. And why aren't we addressing it? We're giving random fighters cryptocurrency now based on their fan base. I can't remember that it was UFC 274 maybe when Rose and Carla fought. Rose Namajunas got a crypto bonus. That was one of the worst fights I've ever seen, title fight or not, and she got a crypto bonus of 30,000 or something like that. What are we doing? Let's put the crypto in the bin, or put all that cryptocurrency, take the real money out of it and invest in some proper gloves for MMA. But for me, it's ridiculous. But it is what it is. Dana White's going to Dana White.
Well, like you said, we have major problems in MMA, such as judging, fighter pay, stuff that comes up every week. And the third one is eye pokes. Eye pokes is the one that we can work on very easily, and with a little bit of willpower, and we can solve it within a year, maybe. You know what I mean? There's very clear solutions to that problem. We don't have to talk about it every week, but the UFC, since forever, has talked about it and not done anything. The gloves in the UFC are not good for fists.
Yeah, exactly. You say we don't have to talk about it every week, but almost every week there's an issue. There's some sort of issue. There's I'd say on average, if you watch a card from first prelim, so let's take UFC 276 last weekend's card, from the Jessica Rose Clark fight all the way up to the Adesanya fight, not even including the Pedro Munoz fight, I'd say there's probably, I can't remember off the top of my head, but 3 to 5 occasions of eye pokes. Mm-hmm. There's only 10 or 11 fights on a card, 12, 13 max, I'd say. I'll watch this weekend's fight card and look to count the amount of eye pokes, and just as a little sort of research to see, it's an issue. We both know it's an issue. Yes. All media members and fans, the casual fan can see that it's an issue. The casual fan tunes in to watch Sean O'Malley, and can see that it's an issue. The casual fan doesn't get to see Sean O'Malley potentially finish a fight against Pedro Munoz as a result of eye pokes. And UFC, reach out to me and Tim. We will revolutionize the glove for you.
It is, man. We've got the simplest plans in the world, and it'll still be better than the gloves that Tank Abbott introduced 20 years ago. Those are still based on Tank Abbott's gloves that he made for himself during bare knuckle times. Exactly. We can do better. We can do better than Tank Abbott's hands.
Exactly. And we won't, if you do reach out to us, we promise not to go Art Jimmerson, one boxing glove and one completely bare hand. We won't go that far.
Well, now let's hear. No, that still wouldn't solve the problem. You need an MMA glove on the front hand and a boxing glove on the back hand. That would still be an improvement. It would still reduce eye pokes.
Sure, you reduce the eye pokes on the front hand. I want to see Alex Pereira with a boxing glove on his rear hand, but an MMA glove on his front, so he can still down that left hook.
That would be great.
But it's like I say, it's work in progress. Get in contact with me and Tim.
That's right.
I'll link our socials below if you want to. If you want to get in contact with us to revolutionize the sport of MMA, we're here for you.
So before we get to Raphael versus Raphael, do you want to get UFC 276, any of International Fight Week? There were some big fights on it. There were some big notes coming out of it. Do you want to get your say out of here before we move on?
I think all we have to say is, Alex Pereira really stamped his ticket to be the next middleweight champion, and that's how you do it. Next middleweight contender, and that's how you do it. You go in against Sean Strickland, who for some reason was trying to fight one of the best kickboxers in the world, that's transitioned over to with his hands. But
He could have won. Strickland could have won. There was a
As
route
soon
for him
as
to
Alex
win.
Pereira throws a jab, if I'm Sean Strickland, I'm diving on that double leg.
Yeah.
I am diving on it. And, Sean Strickland, not a notoriously good wrestler, but with the greatest respect to Pereira, definitely going to have better wrestling than Pereira. And we didn't see it. He tries to defend one of the best left hookers in the game with his chin. It's never going to work. I think Volkanovski put an absolute stamp on the fact that he is the best featherweight in the world right now. No doubt about it. I picked Holloway going into the fight because I thought that Holloway might have made the appropriate adjustments, but in hindsight, I couldn't have been more wrong. And then, it comes out that he's broken his thumb in the second round. I wrote about that in the week, and it was just crazy. And he still outboxed Holloway each round, and it wasn't like, okay, I broke my thumb, I'll wrestle now. It was, I broke my thumb, I'll just, I'll just club at you with my left hand rather than my fist. But yeah, and then going on to the Adesanya fight, after the walkout, it was a disappointment, let's be honest. But I kind of agree with what DC said. It takes two to tango, and if Jared Cannonier isn't going to fall, that's probably Jared Cannonier's only chance at middleweight gold. The division is moving past him. He was losing to Derek Brunson convincingly before Brunson got tired.
Yeah.
You got to go for it if you're Jared Cannonier. You leave it all in there. Yeah, you get knocked out in the fifth round. Well, yeah, you got knocked out in the fifth round because you were wading forward and trying. Why is he clinching in the final round? At the end of the day, that you've lost at least the first three, realistically the first 4 rounds. Don't clinch and try and stall the fight now. Adesanya, if anyone, should have been the one initiating the clinch. I've won the first 4 rounds. He's not putting himself in enough danger to be finished. I'm not going to, risk being finished by the heavier hitter. But, in my opinion, like I say, Cannonier should have been forcing the action and he wasn't. But, you can't force a guy to do that. But go out on your shield, man. It's you one, more than likely your one and only opportunity at middleweight gold, unless, something drastic happens. He's not getting any younger. And, the older he gets, the more difficult it is going to be to make that cut down to middleweight. And he didn't roll the dice, but it is what it is. And hopefully Adesanya versus Pereira is next, probably towards the end of the year, maybe the November MSG card. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing that. If that's might be a slight quick turnaround for them both. Maybe we'll see them opening up the up 2023 with that, that January card that they usually have mid to early January. So we'll have to wait and see. But, like I say, the Brazilian is really the guy who rubber stamped that whole card, really, in my opinion.
I completely agree. He came in with the best headlines. Alex Pereira is a cool guy. And you come away thinking like, man, that guy's really deserved it and earned it and stuff like that. So it's really good for him. It should be, and I think with Adesanya, and the guys on Heavy Hand said it as well, but or maybe it was Luke Thomas who said it. No, I think it was Luke Thomas, but he said the Alex Pereira Adesanya fight might not be much more exciting than the Cannonier one, but it'll be more tense because like Pereira can actually legitimately has knockout power against this man, and has shown it against this man before. So it'll be a fun fight to watch because we're all going to be watching very closely. Sure. But yeah, we'll break that down as we go forward. But let's talk about Raphael versus Raphael. A really good banger in lightweight. Oh man, lightweight it's such a highlight division. I keep really banging the drum on that the bantamweight is the best division in the UFC, but my God, lightweight is good, isn't it? Eh? Tell me about this fight. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Bantamweight is bantamweight, and they're always going to have, Dillashaw's next, and then you've got Sean O'Malley on the outside, and you've got Merab on the outside of that. You've got Sandhagen, Song Yadong clashing. I think that's September 17th or September 11th. I can't remember, but that's in September. And you've got Marlon Vera, on the outside taking on Dominic Cruz. So bantamweight is always going to have the next contender. But as far as well-rounded, that everyone in the bantamweight division is pretty much a striker, other than Merab.
Yeah.
Lightweight's got it all. You've got Charlie Olives. That's is he a jiu-jitsu guy? Is he a striker? He's knocking guys pretty much out before choking them out. You got Islam Makhachev, the wrestler of the division, who, let's be honest, he hasn't fought anybody. His best win is Bobby Green.
Cosine.
And no disrespect to Bobby Green, but Bobby Green will admit that he's nowhere near a title shot. He's a fun fighter. Everybody loves to see Bobby Green fight. He's got a great personality. He's not world class, you know.
Yeah.
You've then got Justin Gaethje, arguably one of the best wrestlers in the division. Never uses his wrestling. He just loves to stand and bang. And then you've got these two guys, Rafael Fiziev and Rafael dos Anjos. I thought it was a really close fight, and I think the fight could have been slightly different. I think Rafael dos Anjos, it might come out that he hurt his hand. I think it was his left hand after the second round, because he was shaking. He was sort of holding his hand as his team left the octagon, and he was sort of sorry, it would be his right hand because he's obviously a southpaw, but he was shaking it out, just kind of holding it. And then we saw the injury to the forearm, the bleeding forearm. They made a lot more of that than I thought was necessary on the broadcast. Oh, he's bleeding from his forearm. He's bleeding. Yeah, have you seen Rafael Fiziev kick? Of course he's bleeding from his forearm. I'm bleeding from my forearm. I'm watching it on replay at 7:00 in the morning. But yeah, you know, it's like they say, if a kicker like Fiziev lands even on the forearm, it's going to shatter your forearm. It's going to really, really hurt. So I think it might come out that Ade had a slight injury to his right hand, because it didn't seem like he was throwing it with quite as much pop in the second, third, and fourth rounds after he was kind of holding it. It's something I noticed. But no, like you say, lightweight is on fire, and I thought it was, you know, a really good fight for us. Like, it almost lasted the full 5 rounds until Fiziev had other ideas entering the fifth.
And just a highlight reel knockout, another one for him, and it's just But one of the problems that we're seeing at lightweight is there's now a bunch of top guys who are, there's a kind of an old guard with guys like Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, and then there's a very brand new guys like Beneil Dariush, Michael Chandler, and Rafael Fiziev. None of these guys are booked right now either. How do you pair all this up to keep the division moving? Oh, and Charlie Olives is like calling out Conor McGregor. Fine, like, you're not a champion, I guess that's cool. but
exactly.
How do you do this? How do you fix this division? Everyone's at the top. It's so exciting, and none of them have fights.
Exactly. The way you fix the division is what we were alluding to earlier. Tournament. Make a tournament out of it. Why not? Everyone has pretty much fought within the past 3-4 months. Justin Gaethje and Charlie Olives fought in May.
Yeah.
You've got Matthias Gamrot, who obviously fought just a couple of weeks ago, but didn't take an awful lot of damage in that fight.
Great fight. Super great fight. Another new guard to the top of the division.
Exactly. And you've got, you know, Sarukian on the outside. It was obviously picked up the loss against Gamrot, but his stock didn't go down at all.
No. If
you look at the top sort of 8 of the division, like you say, none of those guys are booked, and none of them have been booked for a while. When's the last time we saw Dustin Poirier? Was that Dustin Poirier must have been the title fight against Charlie Oliveira, I think.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, it's been a while.
So Poirier, Chandler hasn't been booked since the Tony Ferguson fight. Tony Ferguson obviously hasn't been booked since that, but we don't want to see him in with any killers, to be honest, because I just want to see him easy-ish fight right off. But, you know, these are all guys that you can just put in almost into a hat, pull them out right. Conor McGregor faces Gamrot. How's McGregor going to deal with the striking of Gamrot? Is Gamrot going to rise? With the wrestling of Gamrot, is Gamrot going to rise to the occasion?
Yeah.
Fiziev versus Makhachev is the fight personally I want to see. That is an elite stand-up guy with really good takedown defense against an elite wrestler with reasonable stand-up, but he's looking to shoot. Let's be honest. That's the fight I want to see. But what's next for Fiziev? We'll have an article coming out within the next sort of hour or so of this heading out.
Link below.
Yeah, exactly. We put a poll out on Twitter to see who you guys wanted to see. We had Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler, Beneil Dariush, and Gamrot. Little spoiler to the article: Gaethje won it.
Yeah,
by not a huge margin, but he certainly won the poll, as it were. I think it was over 50% of people wanted. I'll just double check what the actual percentage. Yeah, so 53.6 wanted Justin Gaethje, 17.9 wanted Chandler, 16.1 wanted Beneil Dariush, and then 12.5% of people wanted Gamrot. Now, that's interesting to me. I think maybe a little bit of recency bias with the Justin Gaethje, because that's who Fiziev called out. Book that fight, you know. Gaethje, I know Gaethje wanted to have quite a lot of time out from his loss to Oliveira. Fiziev's already sort of taken a few swipes at Gaethje, saying, you know, he's kicking shit, but his hands are good. And I saw him call him out on Twitter saying, you know, if you're going to if you're going to back out of the fight, at least do it publicly and all this. So there's already a little bit of heat between those two guys, and I'm interested in that one. Whether Gaethje takes that fight, because it is slightly lower down in the rankings for Gaethje, you know, he'd probably be looking at there's not a Makhachev maybe. If Makhachev,
like who else? I know, right? Like who else?
Because he's fought a lot of he's fought Chandler, he's fought Poirier, and they're the two guys outside of Makhachev. The Dariush fight, to me, unfortunately for Dariush, isn't the most entertaining guy, but he's been out with a broken leg. I don't want to fight Justin Gaethje or Rafael Fiziev coming off a broken leg. I want to fight Makhachev, because Makhachev isn't going to be one to kick my legs out. But yeah, I think like you alluded to when we started talking, the lightweight division is quality. Gone are the days where it's, you know, Anthony Pettis kind of ruling over it until Eddie Alvarez comes along, until RDA comes along, and then the belts jumping, and then McGregor's holding on to the belt for ages. Then you've got an interim with Khabib and gone are those days. It can be Charlie Oliveira versus any of the top 8, and I will tune in, and it is reasonable that any of the top 8, you could make a claim for any of the top 8. Now, you drop down to featherweight, the greatest respect to, Bryce Mitchell. Is it Bryce Mitchell? Bryce? Yeah.
What, he just won? Yeah, Bryce Mitchell.
Yeah. It just doesn't sound right in my head, but yeah, with the greatest respect to him, he's ranked within the top 10 of featherweight. Now, I can't really make a claim that he's going to even be in the same category as Volkanovski. But you put Fiziev in with Charlie Oliveira, and I'm saying, well, you know, Oliveira's there to be hit, you know, and these guys are ranked, you know, Fiziev and Mitchell, obviously different weight classes, but they're ranked in and around the same ranking.
Yeah,
but it's completely different. Lightweight from Charles Oliveira's one because the belt's vacant, but lightweight from 2 down to 12, I can make a strong case for any of them giving the champion a hard day. I can't do that in other divisions. You know, welterweight, you know, Neil Magny's ranked in the top 15. Usman absolutely dominates Magny.
Jorge Masvidal isn't beating anybody.
Jorge Masvidal isn't beating anyone. You even go as far, you know, middleweight. No one's beating Adesanya at middleweight other than maybe Pereira that we spoke about earlier. Light heavyweight, you know, you drop down. I love Paul Craig, who we'll talk about next week ahead of his UFC London fight. But I don't think I think he gets pieced up by Jiri.
I don't want to say anything bad about him.
Exactly. But, you know, you look down, you know, women, even into the women's divisions. Juliana Peña's obviously got the asterisk until she beats Nunes again, but flyweight, nobody's beaten Valentina really. Strawweight, you know, Esparza beats probably, you know, Yang Xiaonan and below, she probably beats, and then everyone above that she probably struggles with.
Yeah.
But again, these are competitive divisions, but with lightweight, 1 to 10.
Yeah.
Throw them in a cage together, all in the same night, and see who leaves the cage alive. You know, these are everyone in there has got a claim to, on their night, they could be the lightweight champion, and that's what makes it so interesting.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's such a fun division. It's a high level division, and we even saw that with the fight night, I think 2 weeks ago, with Sarukian and Gamrot. Of like, these guys are just cracking into the top 10, and they are doing not just sprawl and brawl, they are doing takedown reversals against each other. This is the kind of level that you need to be at to like make it in lightweight. And this is one of the things I was talking about with I'm good friends with a cousin of Hakeem Dowadou, and she was Mean Hakeem, and she was asking about him, and I was like, he's so good, he is so above average. The problem is the division that he's competing in. You need to be,
exactly,
you can't just be above average in this division. You need to be amazing to even crack in the top 15.
Exactly. And you know, Dowadou, I think Dowadou is in a featherweight, I think.
I thought he was a lightweight.
I mean, I think he probably should be at lightweight. He's a huge featherweight.
He's massive, yeah.
But you know, he's picked up. I know he's picked up.
Oh, he is
featherweight.
Yeah, you were right. You were right. Yeah, my bad.
He did pick up a loss. I can't remember who against, but he then rebounded. And you know, you got people like Dowadou not in the top 15 of featherweight. Lerone Murphy not in the top 15 of featherweight. Both these guys, I'd love to see that fight, but both these guys are, you know, are not ranked. You've got absolutely phenomenal fighters at multiple different weights.
Yeah.
The fight a few weeks ago, Kutaladze versus Ismagulov at lightweight. Ismagulov has only recently made the top 15.
Yeah.
Yet holds a record. I think he's 20 something and 1. Like, you know, yeah, he's 24-1, and his only loss came in 2015 M1 Challenge, and since then, that was when he stood at 5-1. He's now 24-1, and he's 5-0 in the UFC. Wins over Thiago Moises, Rafael Alves, Joel Alvarez, and obviously Kutaladze last time out.
Yeah.
He fought 3 times in one night in Kazakhstan in 2016, finished all of those by TKO. He was the M1 Challenge lightweight champion, and he's only just cracking the top 15 in lightweight.
This is exactly what we mean of like, this is how good you need to be to just break into the division a little bit.
It's just phenomenal stuff. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we'll go on to talk about featherweight now because Yair Rodríguez versus Brian Ortega is coming up this weekend. But
yeah,
each of these the lower weight divisions are without a doubt the more interesting, the deeper divisions. You know, heavyweight, as soon as you get outside the top sort of 5, top 6, it's a little bit dicey. Light heavyweight the same, middleweight's going that way.
Yep.
And then you've got bantamweight, featherweight, and lightweight, all of which throw them into a hat and watch them scrap it out.
And talking about how good lightweight is, what about the featherweight champion? Really doesn't have any great contenders left that I see. Like, none of us really see him competing with any of those guys. He's a far ahead. Moving up to lightweight, he's pretty small moving up to lightweight, but he's running out of options at featherweight. Is there anyone at lightweight that you can see him like rising and actually beating? Like, what do you do with him at lightweight? Because I'm not sure. I actually don't know if he beats some of the guys in the top 3, just because he is very undersized for that weight class.
He's undersized with regards to his height. He's 5'6". This is something I sort of gave a little hint at in the sort of news piece that he broke his thumb, and then I couldn't help myself. I had to write about him moving up to lightweight. I couldn't help myself. But, you know, he's shown phenomenal takedown defense throughout his career. In the UFC, Islam Makhachev, takedown guy. He's got better striking than Islam Makhachev. He doesn't exactly finish guys down at featherweight, though. That's the issue. You know, yes, he finished Zombie. I think he finished Chad Mendes, and I think he finished Darren Elkins. I think there is maybe one early on in his career, in his UFC career.
He was brawling. He was a different style back then.
Exactly.
Well.
Exactly.
Changed, yeah.
And he wasn't the feint heavy sort of the feint heavy striker that he is today, but he's got a longer reach than Charles Oliveira, or he's at a 1-inch reach disadvantage than Charles Oliveira.
No way, Charles Oliveira looks huge, like especially
exactly. And I'm pretty sure that's the case. I'll just double check that in the article that I wrote, but I'm pretty sure that's the case because I was surprised. Or maybe it was Islam Makhachev that he had a 1-inch.
That's still insane, though.
Oh, sorry. He's 3 inches. He's got a 3-inch shorter. His reach is 3 inches shorter than Oliveira's, but he's 1 inch bigger than Islam Makhachev's.
What the hell?
He's got a bigger reach than Islam Makhachev. If you remember, he was considerably shorter again than Max Holloway, but he had a longer reach. And obviously, you know, reach isn't everything when you are, unfortunately for Volkanovski, as short as Volkanovski is.
Yeah,
that does slightly play against you with regards to your reach because you just can't, you know, you can't get in range as well as you'd maybe want to.
I can't believe that. That's insane.
He's got a 71-inch reach advantage. Justin Gaethje, 70-inch reach advantage. And Justin Gaethje's not a guy that's coming up from featherweight. Justin Gaethje is Justin Gaethje's not a guy that's coming up from featherweight. Justin Gaethje has always been a lightweight, and I don't think Gaethje could make featherweight even if he wanted to.
No.
You know, comparing that to Michael Chandler, 71-inch reach advantage. Who else we've got in and around the top? Dustin Poirier, 72-inch reach advantage. So he's got a 2-inch shorter reach advantage. He's got a 2-inch reach disadvantage than Dustin Poirier. And Poirier's thinking about moving up to welterweight. You know, he's got the same inch reach as Khabib had. And
what the hell? I can't believe it.
Exactly.
He has such like the perfect body for fighting. Of like he's this short, stout man with the longest arms you've ever seen. So I was just bringing up Conor because Conor, like he always had freakishly long arms. Somehow fought at featherweight, but yeah, he was way up at 74 inches. So Conor, even at lightweight, was so long. Like Conor was a freak. And at featherweight. Like that was insane.
I mean, exactly, and you know, transferring that up to lightweight, we saw against, you know, his own. I think is it his only win at lightweight against Eddie Alvarez.
Yeah, it's the only win.
But he was able to almost just lean in rather than even stepping into his punch. He was able to lean heavy on that left leg, on the right leg, sorry, because it's southpaw, and just hit the 1-2 down the pipe and constantly land on Eddie. Obviously, that's one of the best performances we've ever seen.
Ever. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you know, reach isn't everything, it's how you use it. And we know that, you know, but the only thing is for Volkanovski, he's 5'6", which could reasonably play against him. You know, let's say that he goes straight up against Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira, 4-inch height advantage, 4-inch reach advantage. 3-inch reach advantage over Volkanovski. Instantly, that reach is accentuated because he's got the height, so he can lean on. You know, he can lean in, and lean out of strikes. But then, if you're Volkanovski, then you just attack the legs of Charles Oliveira, meaning that he's not so nimble on the feet, as it were. Let's say he goes up against Justin Gaethje next. Justin Gaethje's 5'11". That's a 5-inch height advantage, but they've got the same reach, you know. And as we alluded to, does Volkanovski have that? When Conor moved up, he's got that one-punch knockout power that transferred up to 155, which clearly shocked Eddie Alvarez. It kept Khabib, you know, on the edge of his seat, as it were. Khabib had to be aware. With Volkanovski, and like when we saw Holloway move up against Poirier, they don't have that one-punch knockout power that could really shock a lightweight. In my opinion, you know, we saw I think his best performance yet against Holloway last time out, and then the time before that against Zombie. These weren't one-punch knockout wins. These were volume wins, essentially. You know, Zombie wasn't knocked out cold. Herb Dean mercifully stopped that one,
which is good. It's great.
And brilliant stoppage. I thought it was really, really good by Herb. I think it was Herb anyway, but whoever the referee was. But if he goes up to fight Justin Gaethje will walk forward thinking, you are the shorter man. You are the man coming up. Physically, you're smaller than me. And you haven't got power to, you know, has Volkanovski got the power to rock Gaethje and think, okay, maybe I'll go back to fighting a little bit more conservative?
Probably not.
Gaethje may be a bad example because
Gaethje's tough.
Gaethje, yeah. Let's say Islam Makhachev. Does he have the power to shock Islam Makhachev to not just walk forward, you know, and force Islam Makhachev into a slight more sort of counter wrestling kind of fight? I'm not so sure that he does, but it's something that I really want to see Volkanovski move up in weight because, like you say, Josh Emmett's next. I think Volkanovski toys with Josh Emmett. No offense to Josh Emmett.
Close. Like, that's not even a fun fight. It's not interesting. Josh Emmett's not in the same stratosphere.
Exactly. You know, we saw him against Calvin Kattar a couple of weeks ago. I think that was 3 or 4 weeks ago now. Essentially just hooking. He
was leading with his face. Volkanovski's going to get it's a shootout for him.
Exactly. And Calvin Kattar has always been there to be hit. We saw against Zabit, he was there to be hit. Against Holloway, good God, was he there to be hit. Even against Chikadze last time out, even though he won the fight, he was pieced up in the first couple of rounds until Chikadze kind of faded.
Yeah.
And yet, Emmett landed on him, and of course he landed on him because he's there to be hit. Volkanovski is not there to be hit. You cannot hit Volkanovski unless you catch him really, you know. Max Holloway, arguably, you know, we joke, but arguably one of the best boxers in the UFC, could not land on Volkanovski last weekend. Josh Emmett, no offense, but has not got a chance of landing anything clean because he just hooks. He just does power hooks.
Yeah, no.
You take out the leg like Volkanovski does, and the power dwindles in the third, fourth, and fifth. You become more flat-footed, and you get pieced apart. And, you know, I don't have any interest in seeing that one, in my opinion. I'd rather move up, and even if he's schooled by Oliveira or Gaethje or Islam Makhachev or Poirier or Chandler or any of these guys, I'd rather see that. There's more interest in that than Josh Emmett, who will, you know, unless this weekend shows a real star coming out, I don't have any interest in.
Let's move to this weekend. We have potentially a fight of the year if they actually live up to their names. Like both of them are coming off losses to Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski, respectively. But both of those fights were fight of the years in their own respect in 2021. Both of them were top contenders for 2021. One was your pick for best fight of the year. Now Brian Ortega and Yair Rodríguez are going to be headlining UFC on ABC. Great fight to put on ABC. This is going to be a great one. I think Yair Rodríguez outstrikes him, knocks him down, beats him up, and then Brian Ortega will slap on a submission and win the fight. I can't see any other way that this fight goes. What do you see in this matchup coming up?
Yeah, I for some whatever reason, I feel like this fight has been booked 6 or 7 times.
I know.
It's only been booked once. I looked on Tapology. It's only been booked once.
No way.
So for whatever reason, I think it was rumored a lot, and then one guy got injured. So the rumor it hasn't been. It's only officially been booked once, and then cancelled and rearranged. I'm not mad about it because outside of the main event this past weekend, I wasn't interested in the card at all. There was nothing on that card that interested me. This fight has not only got the main event, but it's got plenty of fights underneath the main event, prelims, and the main card that I'm interested in. But yeah, going back to the main event, it's a difficult one to call. Ortega looked awful against Max Holloway when they fought for the title back in 2018, 2019, whenever that was.
Yeah.
Then he looked absolutely phenomenal against Korean Zombie.
Yeah.
Then he looked pretty awful. Not awful. He was well beaten by Volkanovski last time out. So what Ortega are we going to have turning up this week? Yeah, no idea. You know, I was watching literally 5 minutes before we came live on air. I was watching the Ortega Volkanovski fight because I just love that fight. It's a brilliant fight. But
yeah,
he really struggled to find his range, and he was sort of bull rushing in. Now, if you do that against Yair Rodríguez, the chances are that you're going to land on Yair Rodríguez because he takes a lot of damage. Against Holloway, he took a lot of damage, and against Zombie in his sort of return fight, as it were, he took a lot of damage. He had those 2 strange fights with Jeremy Stephens, you know, the eye poke again, and then the rematch, and then he had that loss where I think it was at MSG, UFC 205, I want to say, where he was well beaten by Frankie Edgar, who just out wrestled him. Now, if Ortega could wrestle, I think he'd dominate this fight. But his takedown accuracy is 24%.
Yeah,
For me, Ortega's like every good jiu-jitsu guy in the UFC. They can't wrestle. Mackenzie Dern cannot wrestle.
No.
She's got something like a 9% takedown accuracy. Damian Maia was never a great wrestler. He was, once he got you to the ground, or at least got you in the clinch and could work his ground game, phenomenal. But he couldn't get you to the ground.
Yeah.
Just like Brian Ortega, he can't get the fight to the ground. But I think, you know, the worry with facing Brian Ortega is if the fight does get to the ground, how does that go for Rodríguez? Now, I don't know if we'll see so much as the flashy kicks and whatnot by Rodríguez through the threat of potentially, you know, getting limbs tangled, getting pushed to the ground, and then having Ortega work his ground game. Against Max Holloway, we saw, you know, attempted rolling thunders, handstand kicks, flying knees, flying elbows, flying kicks. I don't think we'll see any of that against Ortega, because if Ortega catches you and puts you on your back, it's going to be a long night for Rodríguez. But I'm excited for this one, without a doubt. I think it's a phenomenal fight.
Yeah, I totally co-sign with what you're laying down. Of like, Ortega has never had really good takedowns. All of his submissions have come from like opponents falling into his guard, or just his snap down is very good. That when the opportunity is there, he'll take it. Like even against Volkanovski, he was dead. He was dying. They were phoning the hospital, and he still almost finished the fight twice, you know, just by having like good timing, good snap down on it. Let me check the betting odds on this one, because it should be even, but I feel like whoever the underdog is in this fight, this sounds so dumb, but like whoever the underdog is in this fight, probably worth putting some money down on. Like this is
sure.
It's a well-matched fight.
It's an even fight. It should be, like you say, it should be even.
Yes.
Okay, let's see if I can find it. Whether that comes to fruition on the night, like I say, what Brian Ortega are we going to get? Are we going to get the one that turned up against Zombie that was pretty much flawless? Or are we going to get the one that turned up against Volkanovski that couldn't find his range, kind of shrunk in the occasion? Which Rodríguez are we going to get? Are we going to get the one that turned up against Holloway that was ready for 5 hard rounds, that was willing to essentially put his face out there? Or are we going to get the one against, you know, Zombie who scored that crazy. Let's be honest, he took a lot of damage against Korean Zombie. He took a lot of damage against Frankie Edgar. I don't know, it was UFC 211. But I don't know why I thought it was New York. But yeah, he took a lot of damage against Frankie Edgar. He took a lot of damage against Zombie. He took a lot of damage against Max Holloway. At some point, these damaging fights are going to catch up with him. And a gentle reminder that he also fought BJ Penn in a Fight Night main event.
Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for the reminder.
I just wanted to put a bit of a downer on your day, but
so yeah, Yair Rodríguez is considered a slight betting underdog going into this bout. See, that feels like that's a good bet, but if it was the other way around, I would still say, yeah, maybe put some money on Brian Ortega as well. Like this is such a well-matched fight. But yeah, overall, I don't think he can finish him. Brian Ortega is notoriously tough. People don't put him down. People don't put him down permanently. Yair Rodríguez probably wins a unanimous decision or loses by submission. Am I wrong? I mean, is there a scenario I'm missing?
No, I agree. I don't think Brian Ortega, even if he turns up with the striking that that was on show against Zombie, he sort of returned from the Max Holloway fight, I don't even think that striking will be good enough to get one over on Yair Rodríguez. I think Rodríguez is just too good and too elusive. Yes, he takes a lot of damage, but I think he takes a lot of accumulative damage. He doesn't take a lot of knockout blows, as it were. Yeah. Whereas, and the same with Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega takes a lot of accumulative damage, but he doesn't. Never have we seen Brian Ortega drop to the point of his head bouncing off the canvas. We've seen him beaten up twice in the UFC, pretty much. But a lot of the damage on his face came from a head clash in against Volkanovski, and then the ground and pound for Volkanovski when he'd almost kind of burnt himself out searching for that guillotine and that triangle, and Volkanovski got the damage off.
Yeah,
I think unofficially I'm going to pick Yair Rodríguez.
Yeah,
by probably unanimous decision. He's not submitting him, no chance, and I don't think he's got the power to knock him out clean, unless the only thing I can think of Brian Ortega is if Yair Rodríguez can land on him with as regularly as he did against Max Holloway, as regularly as he did against Zombie and against Jeremy Stephens, there's a potential that it's a doctor's stoppage. Yeah. Because Brian Ortega, we've seen swells badly around the eyes against, it was obviously stopped against Max Holloway and against Volkanovski. It reasonably could have been stopped, but he was swelling bad in that fight as well. If Yair Rodríguez can land, he does utilize cutting elbows really well. If he can cut up Brian Ortega, who's got a lot of scar tissue, potential doctor stoppage. But no, I think Yair Rodríguez by unanimous decision is the safer bet on this one.
Completely co-sign with you. I like the pick. That one makes a lot of sense to me. Looking down the card, there isn't much else I really want to talk about except for, I don't think we're going to talk about Miesha Tate and so on, but there is one.
I'm surprisingly excited for the Miesha Tate fight. Miesha Tate down at flyweight. I think that's all I have to say on it. I'm kind of excited to see what Miesha Tate can do at flyweight. It's another challenger potentially for Valentina, who is Miesha Tate is a solid wrestler. She can close that distance against Valentina. She has a size advantage over Valentina. She's probably got the more well-rounded wrestling clinch game than Valentina. Maybe not clinch game, but at least the takedown game against Valentina. Let's just hope she gets past Lauren Murphy, because it can be one of these. She was slated to maybe rematch Nunes after she beat Marion Renault. And then she came up short against Ketlin Vieira last time out in November. Yeah. But I'm kind of excited for that. Obviously, that was supposed to be on last week's card, and it got moved. Lauren Murphy, I think it's some sort of COVID protocol. You've got Michelle Wolfson and Amanda Lemos co-main event.
Should be
moving swiftly on. We've got, but no, I can. I just written down some of it. Shane Burgos versus Charles Jourdain. Why is that not the co-main event?
I know that's a fun one. At least
it's it's got no title implications, but what a fight that's going to be. Shane Burgos will push the pace. Charles Jourdain will push the pace. That will be fight of the night. You can heard it here first. Got the return of Li Jingliang since he fought Khamzat Chimaev. The poor bastard went in there against Khamzat Chimaev thinking that I think I don't want to admit this too much, but I think I picked him to win that fight, and didn't quite go to plan. But
And I'll help you out. Of like, my strategy was to try to hit him with an overhand right, and then he did that, and it was the worst strategy he possibly could have done. So we've all been embarrassed by Hamza at this point.
Interestingly, he hasn't landed a shot since January the 16th, 2021.
That's a good stat.
He's had a fight since then. He didn't land a single shot on Khamzat, so that's something to. Let's hope that he can land on Muslim Salikov this weekend. You've got Dustin Jacoby returning. He's always exciting. I really like watching Dustin Jacoby fight. And Jack Shaw versus Ricky Simone.
That's the one I wanted to talk about. That's actually the one I wanted. Why is Jack Shaw not fighting on the London card a week from now, though?
I have no idea. I think it must be something to do with Ricky Simone not being able to get in, because
maybe, yeah.
It makes no sense to me why put this fight off a week and have Jack Shaw on the London card. He showed up in a big way in London last time out against Timur Valiev.
Yep.
Why are we not putting him on that London card and giving him, there's I don't know. I don't think Corey McKenna's not on the London card next week.
Yeah, the London 2 card, the second one this year, is not as good as the first one. They went all out for the first one. The second one's it's okay. It's fine.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I will tune in to watch that. And we put a poll out on Twitter if you guys would be interested in a main card watch along. And we'll see if we can get something arranged to do that on live stream ourselves on YouTube whilst watching the fights and see how that goes. But we'll discuss that off air and let you guys know next week. But the UFC London card isn't nearly as strong. But there's not, looking down the card now, there's not a single Welsh person on the card. The closest you've got is probably, you're looking at maybe, the closest you've got really is Molly McCann and Paddy Pimblett, who live in Liverpool, and they're slightly close. You have to go through, for myself from the Midlands, you have to go through Wales, or you can go through Wales and Wrexham up to Liverpool. That's the closest you've got. So why not put Jack Shaw on this card? But no, and I think this is, I'll have a preview piece up on the site probably tomorrow. I'll finish it off today and see what we can do. Big test for Jack Shaw. Ricky Simone is solid.
It is. Jack Shaw is, Ricky Simone may have his issues, but he has chopped it with some of the best, like Rafael Sunsao and Rafael Rob. Ray Borg is still very talented. He's chopped it up with some of the top guys. This is a big one for Jack Shaw. And
I think we have to be careful if as a Jack Shaw fan. I don't know why Ricky Simone's been out for so long. Oh no, my mistake. He's only actually been out since December. I thought it was. I forget that he fought us, and so I thought that was the February fight. But if I'm Team Jack Shaw, I need him. I want him to fight 2 rounds in the back before walking out, because he's a slightly slow starter, especially in the UFC. Yeah. He hasn't really been able to get going. So if you get him to fight, a pretty hard sparring round, at least one in the back before heading out, not just hitting pads, not just shaking out. Get him to spar around, and then he'll be switched on straight away for the Ricky Simone, for the first bell of the Ricky Simone fight. Because if Shaw doesn't, I think it could be a long night for Shaw, because, like I say, Simone is solid. I really, really do rate Ricky Simone. I think he's a really good fighter, and of course, I'm Team Jack Shaw because I'm slightly biased, because obviously he's sort of based out of the UK. But with that being said, Ricky Simone takedown average 6.76 takedowns per 15 minutes. But does he want to take Jack Shaw down? Because that's where Jack Shaw thrives. I think this will be, if Charles Jourdain and Shane Burgos isn't fight of the night, this has got fight of the night written all over. I think it's the prelim headliner, or it was at least, but I know we've had a couple of fights fall off this week and a couple of, rearrangements. But I completely agree. I don't know why this isn't on UFC London, but
I know. I thought it was.
To see it a week earlier, I'm not too mad about that either, to be honest.
No, as long as Jack Shaw, this is a good coming out party. Simone is a game fighter. I was just doing some Googling here because I wanted to not say anything too insane. Jack Shaw undefeated in MMA at 16-0. By looking at my quick Google search, I think Jack Shore, it's safe to say, might be the greatest Welsh wrestler in history, because Wales doesn't have, like, I'm trying to find any entries on Welsh wrestling and I can't find anything of any Welsh people even ever qualified for an Olympic Games in wrestling. So I think it's safe to say we're watching history being made in front of us.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's without doubt I don't want to speak out of line, but I think he's probably the greatest Welsh MMA fighter in the UFC history.
Yeah, that's true.
If you look at, just off the top of my head, John Phillips, no disrespect for John Phillips, he's got power, but that's it. Brett John's obviously now in Bellator, but he had a bit of a rough time in the UFC. Got Corey McKenna, she's 1-1 in the UFC, but she doesn't, she is Welsh, but she trains out of Team Alpha Male. And, you've got Jack Shore, who's really flying that dragon flag for them. And I think with a win over Ricky Simone, he's got to call. It's Ricky Simone, another fight, and then he's talking top 5 of the division. But like we've been saying for the entire episode, this is bantamweight. There is so many contenders at bantamweight. There's so many contenders at featherweight, so many contenders at lightweight, that Jack Shore's really going to have to put on a show. And I think a finish over Ricky Simone maybe sees him on a main card of a pay-per-view next.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like I said, he's got to start fast, because Ricky Simone, we know, will start fast. And, at the end of the day, I think if Ricky Simone takes it to the ground, that'll suit Jack Shore. Jack Shore's very good off his back, but Shore's got to mind his P's and Q's with Ricky Simone, because, like you say, Simone's been in there with, yes, he lost to Uriah Faber, but he's been in there with Faber, been in there with the Sun Sao, Brian Kelleher, Ray Bull, gone 15 minutes with Rob Font. These are considerably better fighters than anybody Jack Shore's faced. So it's a big step up in competition. And, I'll be breaking it down in a piece this week.
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good one. Okay, so we got the UFC Fight Night covered off. We talked a little bit about last week. What else we got going on this week? What else should we cover off before we head out of here?
I don't think there's an awful lot. I think, I'll be honest, I haven't been keeping too much of a close eye to boxing. We had Derek Chisora beat Kubrat Pulev by split decision, I think it was, on Saturday night. And, it's almost like fighting Frank Mir in a triangle ring isn't good preparation for a real boxing match. It's, call me Mystic Mac, but I predict these things. Fighting a jiu-jitsu fighter in a triangle ring is not going to be the best prep for a war with Derek Chisora. But, Chisora was then called out Deontay Wilder, which, I don't want to see that. Chisora takes too much damage and Wilder hits too hard, but we'll see. And then this weekend, we've got Ryan Garcia. I think that's the only standout. I think he's fighting Fortuna this weekend, which, I think it's a very good fight. Yeah, I think Ryan Garcia is still on that comeback trail. Realistically, I want to see Ryan Garcia. Yeah, since taking the break away, he returned in April, and now he's out again. I want to see him in there with Devin Haney, George Kambosos, that lightweight tank. And we've heard, luckily, that Vasily Lomachenko is back. He's looking to fight again, maybe this year, possibly beginning of next year. After, he obviously withdrew from the Kambosos fight for political reasons with Ukraine and whatnot. We won't go into it, but you know the story. Same reason why Usyk Joshua rematch is put off slightly later, but I want to see that. That's a fight I want to see. Lomachenko versus Ryan Garcia. If Ryan Garcia wins this weekend, which I predict that he will, I think he's a heavy favorite.
Yeah,
he needs to get on the mic and say, "Look, I heard that you're returning, Vasily Lomachenko. Let's fight. End of the year, December, January, whenever you're ready, let's fight." And that'll be a good coming out party for Ryan Garcia if he can get the victory. But first, you got to get past Fortuna this weekend. It's no easy task.
Maybe I'm just, I don't quite understand, but where did Ryan Garcia's celebrity status come from? Like, he's a boxer, but he's known, and he's known for boxing, but it's clearly not his boxing record that has made him a major star. He's a celebrity, and where does this come from? Did he do something on YouTube that I didn't know about?
I think it's the Instagram age. I'm the same. You're scrolling through your sort of business Instagram, as it were, with the following all the combat sports. It's not your personal one. You're constantly seeing Ryan Garcia hit that Cobra bag, you know, hit pads with his brother, and I think that's probably where it came from. You know, I'm happy to admit that I first heard about him from Instagram.
Me too. You know? Yeah, I saw him on Instagram before. I saw him in box. Yeah,
exactly. And then you look into his boxing career and you think, of course, you know, it's 200. I think it's 215 for 15 amateur record. And you know, the thing I think with Ryan Garcia is he's seen as the protege, maybe to Canelo, to Oscar De La Hoya. He's got that sort of Mexican blood in him, I believe. He's, you know, a good-looking guy, and he's clearly, and he's got that exciting power where he's lightning quick, and he's also, with that speed comes the knockout power. And I think for Ryan Garcia, I think like we say, it's probably the age of Instagram that's aided him phenomenally. But yeah, it's he. I think he is a boxer first, but I also think that realistically, he's a celebrity that can box very, very well.
And he boxes very well. He definitely.
Exactly. And, you know, whereas with, you know, Jake Paul, I hate to mention him, but I've written quite a lot about him this week because it's interesting. You know, Jake Paul, Tommy Fury's out of the Jake Paul fight, and then Hasim Rahman Jr. fills in. But he's a celebrity. He's celebrity boxing. Ryan Garcia is boxing and then celebrity.
Yeah. No, and that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. I was just trying to figure out, like, it wasn't Olympics he was in that I missed, but no, it's just he's an Instagram star, which is kind of what I was hoping you wouldn't say. But yeah, the Jake Paul fight, that's a fair fight.
Yeah, for sure. The only thing I hope is that Rahman doesn't take a dive because they're former training partners.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they used to spar together. I think it was ahead of the. It was a while ago because Jake looked very, very raw, but yeah, they used to train together. But let's hope that, you know, I think that'll be in a couple of weeks. We'll touch base on that. But until then, I need to watch a little bit more Rahman Jr. But you know, luckily we've got real fighting this weekend, UFC on ABC 3, I think it is. Phenomenal card, and you know, we'll be strap in for next week because next week we'll be reviewing this and we will be going deep dive on UFC London.
Let's do it. All right, let's get out of here for the week. From Tim Wheaton, Frazer, Krohn, MMA Sucka. Folks, we'll see you next week. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Cheers.